Before I became a dad, I used to think success was hitting a certain number in my stock portfolio, but then everything changed. Before I was dad, I was risking a whole bunch of capital in my investments in the stock market. I was eager to make money and making fast money. I dove into options after building a long-term stock account, and I blew up my stock shares account by learning options, and I had to throw in a whole bunch of risk in my trades. I started by first winning a lot of options trades, and then I'll get carried away and then make 20,000 and then go to zero. So once I started keep doing that, and then I'll build up portfolio again and then blow out another account like that, I started to realize that okay, this I can't be doing this anymore. Like I can't be putting in money to fund my account because like I was great at saving money, to invest into the stock market, but the problem I had was trading too much overly risk and then blowing up my account. So I kept making a pattern of this for like a few years. And then till now, I realized that, okay, if I keep doing the same thing, I'm just going to get the same results. So I made the decision that, okay, my baby is depending on me. I can't make these type of risks. Now I had to think, okay, what do my family need before I make this risk? So now I can't just make simple risks like how I was before and expecting to make a big return or lose the whole thing. Now I don't even put in a percentage of the trade no more already just because I can't feel like I have a different priority now than just making money. At this point, I'm trading in, investing into the market so I don't lose capital. The best way to invest in the market is to keep the money, not always make money. There's times in the markets where you just need to let the market do its thing and then you take advantage when the right time is coming. But if I wasn't really doing those things for the last 2 years and losing money and blowing up accounts, I feel like I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at right now because I had to go through those stages of my learning curve. Right, Mariah? Let him know. So now my baby's keeping me disciplined now because I got to think about what my family's roof over my head before I even make a trade or decision in investments. I had to talk about it with my family. So now I feel like it's important that as a trader, if you're going through a stage like that and something might happen in your life, it's always good to self-reflect on yourself and where you're going. Because like I was going on $60,000 going down the drain just through a bear market. I'm over here buying options and calls, and at the time we're doing something, you don't really realize you're doing something wrong until you see that, okay, this is a constant behavior of me gambling, basically. You're gambling and throwing away money, making the next person wealthy. Meanwhile, you got $0 in your bank account, or at least $102 in your bank account. And that's not really adding up to what your brokerage account statement's looking like. So I started noticing that's where I was going wrong. And I'm over here buying calls and I'm over here buying long call options in a bear market, and that's the thing I was going wrong. And people was really shorting the market and profiting from the stock going down, and things like that really just shifted my mindset of, okay, let me just take a break from the stock market. And that didn't mean I'll give up on the stock market, but it really taught me like, okay, this is not something just to be playing with and waking up every day and thinking I can make a lot of money and something lightly, like not bearing the risk. And I was really just thinking about reward during the time of being an investor. And the first time I started, the first 3 years in the stock market. Now I'm thinking about the next 15 years before I even put a dollar in a company. Now, before I invest, I'm doing research and I'm buying shares before even playing with the options price. And I want to build my portfolio real nice before trying to leverage options. Options is something that you want to play with once you've built a firm foundation. Because, I had to go through this part of investing to know what I'm really going into and see how people really are finding success into this and see what they're doing. Now that I'm going about it this way, buying shares long term, buying shares that I can pass down to my kids, that's the best way to go. Then you forcing trades every day and you might hit big 500% in one day, but there's no point of you hitting that big if you don't know how to manage and keep that money. 9 times out of 10, when I was making big returns, I just ended up giving back to the market and trading it again. And that's the thing that I can't do anymore. If I see profit big like that, I take it now. Just because I don't come across that every day and my family could use it. I could be in the next 6 months of emergency funds if I put an option on a company and it hits 500% or 100%. That's something that you want to take, and you won't want to take for granted, because that's something that should come across, and it doesn't come every day. So now it's just good to be appreciative of what you have, you know what I'm saying? Because you can always pass down some funds to your family and generations doing this thing. So why not just throw it away and just playing it like a casino? You always want to come in with a strategy now. And before, I didn't really have a strategy. I just woke up in the market 8:30 p.m., put a call option on something, and see what the market did after that. And that wasn't really the best strategy, especially when it comes to money, because if I would have started at the age of 19 when I started investing, and then where I'm at now, I'm 23 years old, and I would have been buying these shares of these companies repeatedly every cycle, every week, because I never had a problem saving money. Like I said, saving money wasn't my problem. It was really keeping the money inside the stock market. If I never really even learned probably investing, I probably would have about 120,000 right now, or $150,000 saved, just because I know how the habits of me saving and how disciplined I am to keeping money. But some people have problems saving money. So now I can talk to people about saving money and how to get past that part and to get past keeping the money they get paid and budgeting. So what I did in order to save before I had a baby was, every time I got paid, I went ahead and paid myself, because I got paid about $500 every week, and I ended up taking about $300 of that, and then I put it aside, and then I put it in another account, basically, so I couldn't touch it. So if I put it in my brokerage account, I can't spend money in my brokerage account. The only way the money will go away is if I'm losing money making trades. So that already kept me disciplined every time I got paid. And I would live on about $100, $200 a week. And that's easy for somebody that doesn't have any kids and they have a girlfriend, or who doesn't even have a girlfriend. That's pretty reasonable. Okay, unless you don't have unnecessary spending habits, you're not dressing to impress people, you don't have a huge car loan. That's number one thing. I didn't have a car loan. So one of the biggest way that you can grow your wealth is avoiding car loans, car payments, or credit cards. At that time, I didn't have any credit cards. I only had one. I think I only had one credit card. I'm not going to lie to you. I had one credit card for $500 limit, and then I kept it that way. I didn't add any extra expenses. And then from there, I was able to go ahead and get another credit card. And that's where I started messing up. I was starting to add more debt into myself and then really accumulate more payments every month. So first thing you want to do in order to save and budget every month, that I was doing that really worked for me to invest in the stock market at the age of 19, was just avoid amount of extra expenses. And I stayed with my parents for a good year extra when I was out of high school. So you can stay with somebody or some roommates or parents. That's always good. So you can go split the bills and you actually get help around the household and not have to take everything with yourself. And then once I was doing that, I had no car payment. I had my car. I had my budget already listed out. So me and my girlfriend, we were living together at 19. And what I was doing is I was paying about 80% to 60% of the rent, and then she would cover the other half. So we already had a budget for the month. I always want to have a budget whenever you go in or talk anything about money. You got to know where every dollar is going. So if I was getting $2,000 a month working at the gas station, and I wanted to invest about 60 to 65% of my income into the markets, because I'm a new investor and I always wanted to heavy growth whenever it came to my portfolio. And the way I went about it was just making sure I was able to budget. So I budget what we spent for rent, which was about $1,000 at the time. And then we had to have a budget for insurance, and then a budget for food, because food wasn't too expensive at the time, But now we see prices for food is not the same as it was in 2021. But we had a budget for all these things, guys. That's the key important thing. Have a budget for where your dollar's going. And there, at that point, saving was easy for us. So saving was easy for me to put my money aside into the stock market. At that point, once I had created a firm budget, we went ahead and started thinking about what stocks and what options I was starting to play with. I kept this behavior up for at least a good year, And every time I get paid, I'll go ahead and pay myself my 300, living off $100 to $200 a week, and I'll cover my expenses. Make sure anything wasn't late whenever I had to pay rent, credit cards, or whatever it needed to be paid. I got it out the way right after I paid myself. And once I continued to do this, I had about first time I started buying shares and didn't even know what options was. I did this from January of the 2021 until June of that year. So it took me 6 months and my account was at $13,000 in saving and investing. I had got my long-term shares account to about $12,700, and all I did was invest about almost $500 a week. And sometimes if I didn't have anything to pay for that week, I would go ahead and put my whole check into my investments. And then I was going to a strategy where I need to strongly invest. Like I just felt the urge that I need to be doing this. I need to get started because if I start now, I'll never start. And I feel like I was very behind compared to the past generations. And I just had this burning desire to get something started. I felt like I was working for a reason. Before I even came across the stock market, I felt like I was useless. I wasn't going towards a goal. I had no ambition. I was working for the company CEO and getting grains of salt back in return. But until I learned about stocks and was introduced to the stock market, I feel like I have a purpose every day. I feel like I have a dream and I can get closer to where I need to be, and something's coming close to me. I feel like, yeah, God had everything for me whenever I didn't know about stocks, but I just feel like I learned more about myself than when I came into the stock market, and I know more about my behaviors. I'm learning more about things I don't do right, and I know about things I'm really doing right. And everything really started making sense the more I started investing. And I'm very grateful for coming across stocks. And even though I might have not have seen the best success of it so far yet, I know I'm very optimistic about the future. That's because the stock market. Before I didn't even learn about the stock market, I didn't have any really too much hope for the future. I wasn't very optimistic, because that's just how our mindset is ran like that. They train poor people to have a not optimistic mindset. If you think about it, when you talk to a person that doesn't have a lot of money, they're very negative about things. They're not very positive about the future when it comes to their incomes, or they're very short term thinking about something right now, like, okay, I don't have the money right now, or they usually respond with things that are negative when it comes to money, or I can't afford this right now, or my pockets are broke right now, or they just say things or they're just very negative when it comes to finances, or they don't like talking about it. But once I started being like, I grew up like that. I heard it before from other people, so that made my subconsciousness think like that as well. But once I came 19 and started getting older and I started reading books and I started talking to other people and I started learning more about money, then I started changing the way I think. And this is what helped me get into the mindset of what money really is, that you're not supposed to work for money. You're supposed to let money work for you. And then I started diving into the stock market, started learning more about it, learning from mistakes that I was making, investing. And then I started slowly shifting my mindset. And once my mindset really started shifting, I was able to really teach other people about it too, as a way I was going about it too. And this really helped me dive more and continue to feel like I was making progress inside the stock market. And that same year in 2021, in that summer, the market started to go into a bear market. Okay, so when I started investing, everything was very high. Stocks were pretty much pumped, and that was the end of that COVID rally. So stocks had to sell off after that COVID rally. We seen Bitcoin drop more than like 60%, and stocks had entered the bear rally. So I was still investing heavily in there, and that was the worst time for me to learn about options. But guess what? I was learning about it, and I was practicing options in a bear market, and I was practicing putting calls, even though I should have been putting puts, but I didn't have idea what were at that time. I just was still learning about call options and different strategies, not knowing what market we're in and stuff like that. You don't know whenever you start hopping into options and things that you're supposed to consider whenever you put options on, like economic state we're in, interest rates, are they dropping them, are they rising in, and things like that. I didn't ask myself before even dive into it, but I just dove into it so I can learn about it, and ended up having my $12,700 account, and I ended up blowing it to zero. And this really started making me feel like, okay, This ain't nothing ever gonna humble me like that. It's going from that running up that much, working your butt off to get that much amount of capital, and then you just wash it down the drain. So once I start making mistakes like that, I'm like, okay, that was always in the back of my head that I gotta be careful what I'm doing, every decision I'm making, because that anything that you have can quickly go like that and wash away. And that's with anything. So I never was a person to always like be stingy and greedy and hold on to something like that with a tight hand, because I know that money is just paper at the end of the day. It's just a digital decision that you make. And I start really thinking about money differently the more I lost money. Like, to me, money is not something that you should like put first over anything else, because you can quickly lose it. You quickly spend money every day. Money is just something that is transaction. Like this at this point, it's just a transaction. Like, you don't have to really literally lose yourself over it. Or it wasn't, I didn't want to go ahead and hurt myself just because I burned through that money. I was just like, man, what did I go wrong? Why did I do this? And what can I do next time? What was the whole psychology? What was my whole plan about this? Like, what was I trying to get from going from 12,700 and learn how to go to the next step? Why was I trying to go overly overboard and be greedy? Start asking myself questions and beating myself up. At the end of the day, I made a decision with myself to do this. So there's no self-inflicting pain that I couldn't do more once I accepted this. So whenever this happens to you guys, don't go out and make yourself more stressed than you already should because you lost the amount of money. Money isn't really something that we need to be pressed about, because at the end of the day, we're made to be millionaires. God is always on our side. So if something goes wrong in our finances, there's ways you can recover. And I can show you that, proving once I continue this story, that there's times in your life that is going to become obstacles and they're going to be not on your side. So you must endure these challenges so you can go to the next steps. And your time is coming whenever you have a bad trial and error, and you're going to learn from it. And this is one of them I acquired. It was me doing this, because once I did this, I went ahead and started again, guys. I started from zero and I started funding. I kept working. It didn't discourage me. Even though I was making dumb mistakes and decisions, I still continued to do them. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's not like how I just quickly turned it around and then I went about it a different way this time. I still was continuing to being dumb and stupid, okay? I was still putting in most of my check, and I was buying options and still learning, burning my finger in the bear market the whole time. So again, in 2021, that year, I went from 12,000 to zero. And next year, guess what I did again? I did the same thing, okay? So I was investing heavily in there, and I went up to about 10,000 this time. And then guess what I did, guys? I sold it this time. I bought an option call for about 3,000, and I sold it for about 12,000. This time, what I did differently was I took profit when I seen it, just because I didn't want the market to take and reverse back what it gave to me. This time, whenever I hit this option on Amazon, I went ahead and transferred all the funds that I made there in that trade in a day, and I sold it. And then I didn't question anything about it. I went straight to the bank and I took the funds out. And this, what differently than I did before, was the overly greed that I had in myself. I was able to control it this time, because I seen what happened whenever I was in that mindset to make this 12,000 into whatever that it was more, and risking my whole account. And this time I did that, and it could have been a bad thing that I did this time. With that 3,000 I invested was most of my account, but it ended up going to 12 to 15. I ended up just selling this option and going straight to the bank and transferring it, just because greed is something that can hurt you. Pride and greed can hurt you and bite you at the end of the day. And this is something I'm learning about this with the stock market, but this is something I can apply it to my life every day, because you don't want to live with that greed or pride, because at the end of the day it just leads to hurting yourself. So I went to the bank and just sold that option, and went to the bank and continued to withdraw it, and I started treating it as a savings account. And so now I'm seeing I'm doing my stuff differently now. Instead of just invested heavily in playing the game of the stock market, you don't want to play the game of the stock market. You want to be in control of the game. Don't let the game play you. Because at the end of the day, the stock market is made for them to win over time. But at the end of the day, the stock market is always going up exponentially. So you can take advantage of that, and you can strategize yourself so you can profit at the end of the day. So in the next year, 2022, I ended up hitting off of Amazon option in summertime. And then at that point, I started all over again with my account from zero. I started funding it, started making a few good trades, and I made mostly a lot of bad ones that year, just because, again, only strategy I knew that time in 2021 and 22 is call options. That's whenever you profit from the stock going up, and that's the only thing I knew at that time. I didn't really know much about puts or the stock profiting from the stock going down, even though I read the books and stuff like that on different ways you can profit from from the stock. I just was so comfortable doing something I was used to, which is something going up and buying low and selling high, because I knew about stock. I never changed my style of play with the stock going down or selling high and buying it lower and squeezing it, shorting the stock. And this made me really miss out on tons of potential and profit and reward if I would have just changed myself, adapted one little decision I was doing, which was I was going about it the right way, going and saving and budgeting to invest in the market. But just that one little mistake of me just putting calls all the time and me knowing I'm doing the same thing, putting these call options, even the stocks are going down, depreciating, selling off, going towards the real value, and me not knowing that, okay, if I make this one little tweak in my strategy, I'm going to be seeing huge rewards and huge profits because I'm going about it the right way. But there's one thing that's holding me back, and it's still yet those 2 years, it took time for me to do that, and it still didn't happen. So that's the thing. Whenever you live on with pride and you think you know and everything just because you're able to save, budget, and invest in the stock market, but you're too prideful and too greedy to not realize you're doing something wrong, and you're seeing the same patterns and the same accountability, but yet you didn't change it. So the stock market will teach you a lot about yourself and the decisions you make and how prideful you are sometimes, because you could be up so much percentage and you see it and you don't want to take it because you expect more from it, but the next second, the next 10 minutes, half of that is gone, but pretty much even more of it, and now you've even lost the whole investment. So stuff like this is what you see and you start to learn about yourself buying the stock market, by just because money at the end of the day influences psychology and emotions. So now that I know more about money, I don't try to trade with those emotions or psychology in the way. I try to let more of logic and reasoning before any emotions even involved in my decisions of investing. So this is why I want you to let you know, guys, my recap of when I started trading and how I am now as a father looking at investing, and want you guys to learn from the mistakes I did, just because you could avoid that and get straight into building the long-term foundation. And when I say building a long-term foundation, I'm not always talking about finances or investing. I'm just talking about as a man, where you having those discipline and you keeping those roots down of what men are supposed to be doing, which is providing, going out to whatever you need to get your resources, no matter how you get it, doing it something that matches with your morals, and you're not overindulging in anything, you know? You don't always want to overindulge, whether it's investing, gambling, stocks, whatever you do, you don't want to overindulge in. You don't want to overindulge in something that's going to take you away from the Creator Himself, which is the Lord and Savior. So always build a firm foundation, most importantly, which is discipline and the wisdom of that you have with the Lord. And that's going to get you from there. You're set in anything else you're going to do, whether it's in your career, in your relationship with your friends, with your relationship with God, your relationship with your wife, all that will be good. But number one is always build a firm foundation, because I dove into this not putting in the Lord into what I'm doing. So that's why I didn't get the fruits at that time. But now that I have the Lord tuned in to what I'm doing, and I pray about it every day, I put Him in there first before I even make a decision financially, then I know everything is going to play out at this point, because now I'm not just going off decisions I'm making. I'm not trying to take control of my finances. Don't try to take control of your finances. That's number one, guys, because whenever you do, you start to blow up things like your account, and you don't want to blow up your account too many times, because you're just slowing your process down to building wealth. And like I did, I slowed myself down to building wealth at the age of 19, but that slowed me down to learn that I need to get closer with the Lord, because that's whenever He's gonna catch me back up. The Lord can always catch you back up in life, no matter what. And there's no race in anything. You're not gonna catch up with anything. You're not behind. You're not missing out on anything, brother. Okay, if you feel like you're not caught up on something, what is the rush? Okay, some of us ain't meant to be doing something at a certain age. Okay, who's to say that you're supposed to be having a house, car paid off at this age, or married at this age, or whatever? You know, you always go on the timing that God has for you. You know what I'm saying? If there's something that you want, you can pray about it. But building a firm foundation is the first thing, guys. If you asking for something, but your foundation ain't set, your home ain't built within yourself, meaning that your spiritual and what's inside your mind and your heart is not right with something, make sure you got that right every day. You cleaning it, you working on it, guys, because that's the most important thing. As a 19-year-old, you know what I'm saying, one thing I wish I would have done better was have more discipline than I already had. I had some good discipline in the decisions I was making, but I just wish that I tuned more into the Bible, learning stuff like that, and praying and practicing stuff like staying away from things and protecting your eyes and always giving and being generous, you know what I'm saying? stuff like that was something that was more, that can be more practice for me even now. So I'm learning more and stuff like that now, guys, and being a father. And as a dad, I feel like investing is just going to get me more suited for being a better for my family by just practicing discipline, guys. Doing things that you don't want to do sometimes. And I can teach this to my kids. So now I'm just thinking about like, what kind of stocks can I pass down to my kid? What stocks am I buying for my baby right now when she's 18, instead of me buying, you know what I'm saying, her biggest wedding gift for her, or the biggest whatever, the biggest prom dress. I can pass her down some of these stocks, and then she can start her own business, and she can start diving into knowing how to read these candlestick charts and invest in long term and doing some trades, so she doesn't have to depend on a person that's working owner of McDonald's, or like how I started at 15 years old, having to figure stuff out. You can already have ways that they can come out, figure these things out, something easier, efficiently, second income. They can beat inflation with it. Even if there's bad economic times, they can be doing this no matter where they're at. So now I'm just thinking about, okay, this is a skill. I shouldn't abuse this skill. I should use this skill so I can become the best version of myself. If this skill is not becoming the best version of myself, then I'm abusing this skill, then at this point it's a burden. I should let it go. So once I start thinking like this, then I'm going to get better at what I'm doing every day. And I'm, of course, putting the Lord into what I'm doing. It's going to be good for me. So now at that point, if something's fruitful, it's going to last forever. If something's not fruitful, it's not going to work, okay? If it's not built on a firm foundation, the house is going to fall over. And that's what I realized at the age of 19, that me trying to build well, but I didn't do it the right way. I wasn't going about it the right way and playing the long game. The turtle always wins the race. Always be patient, guys. You're not missing out on nothing. If you're missing out, it's big in 2025. And that's what really changed me now as a father and how I think as an investor. The moment it shifted was whenever the baby was born. It's just not about me anymore. I can't be putting all my checks into something and yet my baby needs diapers, or my baby needs formula, or my wife needs this, you know what I'm saying? Because she's not working right now taking care of the baby. At this point, I'm thinking that I can't be making financial decisions without having other people involved in them, or not thinking about how it will affect the people in my household. Before, I was very selfish, okay? I was investing about 80% of my income. Now that I'm a father, I'm thinking like, okay, if I invest 100% or 80% of my income, where are we gonna live, and what happens if the emergency comes up? You know, the baby might need this, wife needs this, you know what I'm saying? So who's gonna cover those things nowadays in this man? As a man in the household, those things should come up in your brain now. So my mind really started shifting as soon as my baby was born. That can't be that person I was used to be before I was a father. This role was brought upon me for a reason, so I had to take care of it. I had to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence and making sure that I have fruit later for emergencies like this. Things always gotta come up like that, and life does life. So now that I'm a dad now, I gotta think more ahead than step A and step B. I gotta think about step B. At this point, I'm thinking about my health as well. Like, I want to be able to play basketball with my kid whenever they get older, and I want to be the one that's running with them, teaching them how to play sports, be active, teaching them how to dribble, you know, stuff like that. That every parent wants to be able to go to their son or daughter's game at that time. Then that's what I want to make sure I have time for. So thinking about, okay, I need to do something that's going to involve me having time for my family. Because number one thing, as me as a kid, I wish like I had more to see my parents being able to have more time for me, and not always like being able to go to work. Now that sounds pretty selfish to me, but at the time I'm thinking about that. You can make that happen. You know, if you have a goal, you can make that happen, guys. Like if you have a dream, you got a certain lifestyle that you want, you don't have to settle for something that's not that at that time. It may not be that goal yet at that moment, but you can always aim for it no matter how long it takes. And that's going to be my goal, to have the certain lifestyle that provides more time for me, have my kids end of the day whenever they need me the most. It might not be at the time that's not right now, but that time is going to come whenever I have enough time for me to take off or set aside away from my work, whatever that I have, so I can spend it with my kids, and then they can have most time with my time, so we can do whatever we need to, and it's just us, okay? As always, that's anybody's dream. If you want to think about it, that's all what we all want. We all want time to spend with people we love. So that's one thing I thought about whenever my child was born. Another thing was safety. Who's gonna be there, that guardian that's gonna protect the kid whenever they need you, or there's something around their environment that you feel inside you that they don't need to be around. So that's what came to my mind, is keeping my child safe around this dark world, because now that I brought somebody inside this world. I gotta be to make sure the one that I'm gonna be able to protect them no matter what. Cause I signed up for this and I know how this world is. So best not to love the world that we live in, but just live in it. Okay, so now that I see my baby born and she's inside of my hands, a bunch of thoughts just coming to me like, okay, boom, now you need to start doing this. I need to start doing this. I need to start doing. I'm gonna roll myself a whole checklist. The first 10 seconds I see my baby inside my hands, and instantly my life just changed from there. Now a new goal for me as a father is not the same what I was before, just chasing numbers. As a father, my goal is to build generational wealth for my family, build a 529 for my kid, which is an account that I can start for them, an investment account so they can use to go to college. I can sign up for it on the Fidelity account, and then I can never take out of it. If I pour in about at least $50 to $500 a month, I'm guaranteed to leave my child at least $100,000 by the time she's 18. So if I start now and meet investing that side to that account at least minimum $50 every month, that's already a starting a plan to build generational wealth in the family, and then continuing the education, teaching my kid about money early is important too. As a kid, I didn't know anything about money. Even though I came across it, I never had the time to sit down with one of my parents and them to really teach me the financial literacy that I know now, just because they didn't have it in the family education already or resource for me to get it anyway. So now that I have it, now I want to be able to pass it to my kids and where they can grab the resources and always get somewhere out their comfort zone that they don't already. I might not have everything they need for themselves at that time, but they can find a way they can grab that resource either on the internet or books. But always keep them curious about financial literacy and teach them so they don't have to get lost or taken advantage of when it comes to finance. Another thing is I want to build a safety net of emergency funds. Emergency funds is always important to have at least 6 months or even more expenses covered, because that's already a firm foundation for you to build wealth. And emergency funds is always going to be needed. You never know what happens in life, you know what I'm saying? And I don't even believe in like life insurance and stuff like that, but if you, as long as you have an emergency fund, you would be okay. That's what I believe. And then also just focusing on budgeting and time. Time is the most important thing to me. So I feel like if I use my time and budget, then I don't have to take over huge risk investing in the stock market to acquire huge losses. So if I think about time more than making a huge amount of reward, then I can always focus in on just keeping the amount of capital that I have, because that's going to grow regardless with the time. So what I've changed now that I'm a father, I switched from being speculative and trading so much times in a week or month now to not even trading as much even in a month. Sometimes not even trading at all. Now just buying at least a couple shares, mostly here every month. Now before I wasn't even buying shares. I wasn't buying stock. I was buying only options contract. Now I'm just stepping away mostly from options, and I probably buy one every blue moon. But now first I think about buying shares, because shares are more risky to me, and they go with my risk tolerance. I don't feel like I can lose my whole investment in buying company or shares in the stock market. And another thing I do is set up monthly contributions to my daughter's future. So at least I can start saving. If I'm going to pay myself, I can guarantee I could pay my daughter as well too, putting money aside to start building for a 529 account. And then I prioritize budgeting. I'm making meal plans, and then I don't impulsive spend. I don't take a necessary amount of trips to the mall or to the store and just treating myself like that, just because I know whenever the time it is to treat myself is going to be something that's going to be very big and that's going to be very rewarding. I don't really hype off short-term satisfaction. I more think about long-term. Being a dad changed my life forever. It changed the why behind every financial decision I make. If you're a parent or plan to be, how has having a child or a child on the way change your financial decisions?